Hello. We're back.
This is like the 10th time that we're doing this.
Yeah, it is.
Do you want to welcome everyone to whatever we're doing?
Welcome to the 8.
Hey, welcome to the 8.
Welcome.
It's been 3 weeks since we recorded, and Cassie just said we're rusty.
Yep.
And Megan said,
I was just remarking that we finally have new clothes on after 3 weeks of wearing the same outfit, so people don't think we're slobs.
you want to know what I think is cool about the last few episodes of the 8? I've received at least 2 comments of people that mentioned or said thank you for mentioning them in the 8. How cool is that?
Super cool.
What do you think about that?
Super cool.
All right, let's get this thing started. Welcome back. All right, so the first thing is let's just give a little bit of an insight into the list issue. Megan, do you just want to give our viewers a little insight to what we're doing for this first issue of December?
I would love to. Today we kicked off the new issue, and for the next few weeks we're going to be highlighting the top 25 brands to watch in 2017 in a handful of categories. So today we started with QSR suppliers. We'll be doing fast casual, full service, pet industry, at-home industry, you name it. We'll probably have a list up there for you.
Yeah, the idea is that for you, the prospective buyer, and that could be prospective franchisor for a supplier, because our first one up is our supplier list. We're going to try to give you insight to as many brands as we're finding details on, just so that you have some options for when you're looking for the right franchise opportunity. Many of you, in the history of franchising, are starting to look at the opportunities that you'll end up investing in next year. So typically, the typical franchise prospect is going to take 6 months before they inquire. So if this is day one and you're going to be a May franchise prospect, then hopefully the list issue will give you some feedback into what's going on. Cassie, I'm going to go to you for number 8. I love that we look up. Number 8, The Buzz. This is our story of the week. So CNBC had a story that consumers are upbeat about casual dining. So their upbeat personalities and their positivity, even though we're after an election, is going to help drive sales back to the casual dining segment. So consumer confidence is high, even though we had an election that may have not gone the way for 50% of the country, did for the other 50%. Just some feedback on that, on consumers being upbeat and what that could mean for franchise brands that are looking to drive sales here in the colder months of the year.
I think it's going to be a really interesting month and close to the year for franchise brands, because even after the election, with the holidays coming up, people are kind of getting excited for the possibilities that a new year is going to bring, and I think that kind of does bring people out, gets people in restaurants spending money, and I think it has the potential to be a really strong finish to the year and start to 2017.
Yeah, it's interesting. As I've talked with many of our franchisors about what this election meant for the brands, and again, personalities aside, and it is what it is. This Donald Trump is our president as far as today stands. So what brands are starting to say is that their confidence is actually higher from a business standpoint, which is good, because if the brand's confidence goes up, that means they're going to invest more into marketing. They invest more into marketing. Their franchisees are going to invest more into marketing, and that's going to drive more consumers to the restaurants or to the businesses that they're driving. So confidence seems high at this moment, which is good, because after election it can sometimes be shaky. There's been protests, there's been very upset people of the result, but regardless of that, it seems like we're starting to move forward as a country, especially from a business and entrepreneurial standpoint. So that's good. Let's go to brand of the week, and this week we're going to do Signal 88. I'm going to just highlight some of the stories on their page. Both of you think of a comment that you want to say about what you like about their brands. But for Signal 88 Security, 4 stories that are on their site. If you go to their page at signal88.1851franchise.com, Spokane Journal of Business did a story about them targeting Spokane for development. Signal 88's been pretty strong on figuring out what markets would make most sense. They're basically outsourced security, and their franchisees all have similar backgrounds, which I'll tell you about in a second. KRQE out of Albuquerque had a story about how students can stay safe on campus. So that's more of a consumer trend piece for the brand. Good video to watch. They have a story about private security industry growing in Colombia as population rises. They have a growth story about California on their page, and they have a story about a veteran successfully launching his own business with Signal 88. Veterans seem to be a high category of individual who's looking at Signal 88 as a franchise. So Megan, I'll start with you. Just some comments on the brand or some of the stories that you've written about Signal 88.
I think the one thing that has come up in every story that I've written about them is this sense that they have of providing peace of mind for the community is really ingrained in every single franchisee that they have. They seem to all come from some sort of veteran or service background, and so that's this built-in in their character to want to keep people safe and provide for the community. And I think that having that system, that commonality has really added a lot to the franchise.
It's great insight. And Cassie?
I think that Signal 88 has really kind of taken this industry and made it their own. There's a lot of demand out there for security services, and that's something that's really only going to grow, at least I think, in the near future. And they're doing everything right. They're getting their name out there. They're talking to prospective candidates, and I think that they're really going to be growing rapidly coming up.
That's great. So next story is our people story. There you go. Our people story this week is out of the Wall Street Journal. The Big Mac creator, Jim Delegati, I think that's close, right? Yeah. He died at the age of 98. Moment of silence for Jim. Hey, look, Jim, first of all, sign me up right now. I'll sign up for 98 right now. Good for you. You ate probably more Big Macs than anybody out there, and you still live till you're 88. So hopefully you're watching this somewhere up there, because what else would you do up in heaven other than watch a franchise web program?
Yeah, I'd say let's pour one out for our homie Jim, but let's all eat some Big Macs instead.
Yes, that was amazing. That's going to stick in the reel of fame. But hey, look, 98 years old. He created the Big Mac. What I think is cool about that, it's a great story of a franchisee. He was a franchisee from Pittsburgh with the McDonald's system that created something that stuck really well with that brand. It actually has defined it. Most of us can probably sing the Big Mac song from the commercials. So Jim, good for you. That's a great franchisee story. And hey, IFA, maybe that's someone you want to throw in that Hall of Fame, because that's pretty cool that a franchisee did that well. Profit story this week, number 5, is Checkers and Rally's released their new modular and shipping container building design, and their focus on lowering the investment, accelerating growth, and maximizing the ROI of their brand. Megan, you wrote this story. You want to give some insight to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's they're just introducing this to essentially speed up the time that it takes to open up a restaurant, make it more efficient, make it cheaper, and I think that in itself is obviously boosting the ROI and giving franchisees another reason to invest in the brand.
Yeah, I see this as somewhat of a trend right now. Brands are finding ways to lower investment. There is more financing available in today's marketplace, but brands seem to be trying to find ways to cut costs, because that should accelerate growth. So Checkers, kudos to you for figuring that out and launching that. New York Daily News, for our Places story, reported that 26 were arrested after a fight for $15 wages. Protests shut down Broadway. It's still top of mind, and it's gonna continue to be a battle. Even with a new president, it's going to be a discussion between the employees that are looking for higher wages and local and state governments that are deciding, do we give you the higher wage or do we keep minimum wage down? So that's going to continue to be a hot story. Cassie, just because I think you could give some feedback on our great grammar column from Mr. Troy Kehoe. Hey, Troy, here's a shout out to you. I don't know why I just clicked, but Troy, that was for you. Maybe I'll make some grammatical errors that you can call out later. Well, maybe. What do you think of that column, Cassie?
I thought it was great, especially considering that as writers, it's something that we're dealing with on a daily basis when we're putting together these stories. It is something that can make or break a story that you're telling, and I think it's just really important to keep in mind.
I'm going to stick with you on this, and I'm going to catch you off guard with my question here. Okay. So I find it interesting with a world of social media. It seems like the quality of writing as a whole, not in our department, but in the outside world, is decreasing or declining. Is that necessarily a bad thing? Does that mean the way that we write or tell stories is going to change in the future based on our no one calling us out for actually having grammar errors or writing LOL or BRB or whatever it is in a social world? Do you think the world of writing is going to change? And does that almost make your job or your career more of an art form now because you've mastered how to write?
I think it can. I think that it's kind of good, at least for 1851 purposes, that the tone of writing has shifted to be a bit more conversational. And with that kind of lax structure, we're able to tell these stories in a more informal way than perhaps we would have been doing 10, 15 years ago. I think that it's going to continue changing as social media takes a bigger role, but I'm always going to have my AP style guide with me.
I think you'll be fine. Megan, I know you have some comments on this, so go ahead.
I don't think that acronyms or whatever the kids use these days will ever really replace grammar and just writing and speaking well. But like Cassie said, I think the way that we deliver stories might change to make them a little more conversational. But grammar will always be king.
Well, and it's interesting if you look at even some of the ways that we're telling stories on 1851, we've added video components into it. We're trying to provide links so it continues the story afterwards. Maybe the way that it shifts is there will still be the enterprise stories where people that really want to dive into a story and read the complete story will be there. People seem to digest information in very short tidbits. The impression of a headline today in today's world carries much more value than a full story. But maybe it's just in the way that we package stories will change in the future. I have a column that's coming out soon where I talked about that I switched my major in college from news editorial to news internet. And I was literally the first person to major in the internet. But I saw, and so did the school that I went to, saw that there was going to be this shift in the way that media delivered news. That today it's not the media that dictates what a story is. It's any human being, and partly and frankly that's how 1851's actually been able to thrive, is that we didn't have to be a big media corporation to start telling stories. We just started doing it. So it's a very interesting topic. In the media, QSR had a story, what to do now that the overtime rule was blocked. A few points that are in that story. Continue to track, monitor, and pay overtime as you were previously. You don't yet have to make any changes. If you've already made the changes, it's been recommended by experts to stick with them, implement smart timesheets, be diligent about having employees clock their right time, stay on top of labor expenses. So news, even though that came out that it's been blocked, it seems stay the course, be prepared. Anything can change on that. Any insight from any of the brands that you're talking to, Megan?
Not really, not yet anyway, but it certainly seems like this is something that people can stay on top of by just being prepared and continuing to follow along with the guidelines. Yeah.
There you have it. Megan with the buzz.
Yep.
Lastly, our power rankings. Number 1, power rankings through November 26th. Buffalo Wings and Rings jumped 5 slots to number 1. There you go, Philippe. Good for you. Send comments to me, not to Cassie, about that one. Papa Murphy's, welcome to list. You're number 2. Wireless Zone, Workout Anytime. Pita Pit, Signal 88, Famous Toastery, Alaire, Two Man Truck, and Wild Birds Unlimited, Megan's favorite. Round out the top 10. You can click on the power rankings above. It shows what brands on our site are getting the most reads and most shares based on an algorithm that we've created. So it gives you some insight into the brands that people are actually talking about. So go ahead and click on there. In closing, it's December already. How quickly did this year go, Cassie?
It went by insanely fast. There's nothing else.
Megan?
I would agree. I can't believe it's already December.
All right, and lastly, what do you want for Christmaka?
No more student loan debt.
I think that's fair. Cassie?
A laptop that works better, not from you, from like my parents. Not a work one, a personal one. My computer's dead. I've had it since college.
That probably made some noise in there. I just want to stop whatever this cough is that I have because I feel like my face is turning red. So thanks for watching the Weekly Sizzle. Have a good weekend.